Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is AO Tennis 2. We are in career mode with Anabella Mancinelli. Don't know why it's kind of doing that. We're in the third round, which is also the quarterfinals. Um, and we are playing Herman, who I think is a Belgian, is an unseeded player. As I said last time, there are two halves of the draw. The top and bottom half. The top half contains a number one seed, and the bottom half contains a number two seed. Um, so I can kind of show you here what they do in a tournament is they split the seeds up. So in a normal tournament, there would be 16 seeds. So in the fourth round, which was the second round here, the round of 16, they set it up so that all 16 seeds get there, but they won't meet before that. They put the number one seed all the way on one side of the draw, at the very top there, and the number seed would be two seed would be all the way on the bottom of the draw. And so what happens for the quarterfinals is if the top 8 seeds, as expected, win through as they should, right? The number one player shouldn't be beatable by anyone else. Number two should only be beatable by number one, and so on. Then you would see one at the top, two at the bottom, and then they divide them up. So they don't. It doesn't always go this way. Number one will meet somebody outside the top four. So they split up one and two into the top and bottom half of the draw, and then within the top half, they split number one or two, right, from three or four. So they randomly will choose to put either three or four in the bottom half of the top half of the draw, where you see Kaisley, right? And then the other one goes into the bottom half of the draw. So you'll have, in the semifinals, one will either meet three or four, and two will meet the other one. So you'll either have one against four and two against three, or one against three and two against four. And that's random. And then they will, for the quarterfinals, they will have the other four, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will meet randomly 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you might have 4 going up against 8, or 1 going up against 8, or 1 going up against 7, and so on. That's the way the seeding works. And in the round before that, which would be normally the fourth round, where you have 16 players or 8 matches going on, you would have numbers 9 through 16, and again, they will be randomly located. So number 1 might be playing number 16 or number 14 or what have you. And so what's happened here in this tournament is the 4 seeds that were in the top half of the draw all won through correctly according to form into the quarterfinals. 4 then defeated 5 as expected, but 8 upset number 1 and got into the semis. On the bottom half of the draw, however, because we're here and we defeated one of the better players, we defeated. No, we did we? We defeated number 3, right? So number 3 was in the bottom half of the draw. She didn't come through. And then we also had number 6 getting beaten and so on. So when we get to our round here, our quarterfinal, there aren't any seeds left. We won't face a seed until the finals if we get there. And that's just because all of the seeds have been upset in the bottom half of the draw. And that sometimes happens. And I can remember, U.S. Opens and stuff where that happened. You had like number 1 against number 3 on one side of the draw and 2 unseeded players, or like number 16 against an unseeded player on the other side of the draw. And, sometimes it leads to very lopsided results, right? Where the semifinal is really good between number 1 and 3. Number 3 gets through to the final and is playing some unseeded player who isn't that good and just gets walloped. Sometimes you get somebody like Boris Becker in Wimbledon getting into the final against 8 seed Kevin Curran, who beat Jimmy Connors in the semifinals of Wimbledon when Connors was like the number 3 or 4 seed. And Curran had upset McEnroe, I think, and then upset Connors, but he was still the number 8 seed. Got into the finals against Becker, who was completely unseeded and totally unexpected to be there, and Becker beat him in, I think, 4 sets at Wimbledon in the final. So just because the unseeded player is there doesn't mean they're going to lose. Arantxa Sanchez, Michael Chang, both won the French Open unseeded. Tracy Austin, I think, won the U.S. Open unseeded or as a very low seed when she was 16 years old against Chris Evert. And we've seen that a lot. So it's certainly possible, especially at this lower tier tournament, that Anabella might win through and isn't completely unpredictable. So we're using our pink outfit in this match, and she's doing pretty well. She has about the same overall as, I guess it's Angelica Herman. All she's got less power. So Herman is actually a pretty strong player, stronger than the ones we've faced so far, with 50 in everything across the board, a 61 forehand, a 45 backhand. So theoretically, we could pick on her backhand, but I have found so far that this doesn't really work very well against the computer, in terms of the computer just always seems to kind of play the same way no matter who it's playing. It's just a question of, does it make unforced errors or not. So Serena Williams will just not make any unforced errors when she's going for the lines, whereas these other lower ranked opponents will make some and give you 20 or 30 errors in a match, depending on the length of the match, of course. So we'll see what happens. Numerically, this is the toughest opponent we've faced in this tournament, even though we faced the number 3 seed already. So I don't know if the computer already had her stats designed, or if the computer dynamically generates the stats when you play them for the first time. I really don't know. I think the stats are already there. I do apologize for there being no music here, but again, to avoid copyright notifications, again, I've never gotten a strike, but I have gotten notifications, and music was one of the possible reasons why I was getting some flags. I have taken all of the music off. It's sort of annoying to just see it silently, but that's just what we have to do to try and avoid copyright notifications. All right, so Herman chose tails and chose to receive, which means she's going to be getting a serve and volley on the first point out of the gate. As you know how I do like to establish that serve and volley right away. So here we go. All right, Herman now knows what she's going to be facing. And this is a case where, in real life, of course, in a case like this where Anabella has only played a couple of exhibitions, the other player really wouldn't know what to expect because nobody's played Anabella yet and wouldn't really know what kind of a player she is, whether she's a serve volleyer, whether she's got good ground strokes, whether she makes a lot of errors, whether she comes in off short balls. You wouldn't really know. Right? And this actually can be a bit of an advantage for the unknown player. Right? Nobody knows how to play them. Right? That was definitely something that happened with Becker. Nobody really knew how to deal with him at first until he'd been in a couple of tournaments. And I can remember, was it at the 85 US Open, I expected him to come in and win that too because he had won Wimbledon. And no, not only wasn't it the same surface, but people had learned a little about him over the summer at that point. And he was now a known quantity, right? People had gone back and watched tapes of his matches, coaches and stuff. And so Becker was a known quantity. So that was a pretty easy first game for us. That's a nice way to start. We're up 1-love in the opening set. Oh, that was too close to the line. I shouldn't have done that. I mean, it's a nice winner, but Anabella's flat shot is only a 50%. So you don't want to push it that close to the line. Right, we have a good backhand slice. It's, well, pretty good. It's 60. And our forehand topspin is 60, but our other shots are only 50s. And so you don't want to push too close to the line until you get those up higher. And they were going to stay that way for a while because it costs money to raise them. And the higher the skill is, the more money it costs to raise it a point. So we're going to have to win a number of tournaments before we can push those numbers up. What we're probably going to do is push some of the lower numbers up first, like her 40s in serve, try to get them up to 50s. She has a 60 topspin serve, but her slice and flat serve are only 50s. So far, Anabella is dominating. It's now love 40. Triple break point. She's gotten 7 winners against none for Herman. I don't expect this to continue. Given her stats, she should be doing a lot better. And I suspect the computer is going to do what the one player on the Steam forum complained about, goof around for a few games and then all of a sudden come in clutch. What? Okay, I don't know what happened there. The computer moved me. With the movement assist, I guess, the computer moved me to the forehand side when I was trying to go to the backhand side. So I don't know what happens there. Like, is that a glitch, or was that the computer trying to win itself a point by not allowing me to move where I was pushing the joystick? I don't really know. Some people have complained about it saying it's lag. I don't know. That's possible, right? That there's some sort of an input lag where it doesn't sense your input quickly enough. That's a nice shot from her. And that is 2 points that she won. You can see how all of a sudden it's different, right? She was goofing around, and now it's 40-30, 30-40, right? There's still break point, but it's, it's clutch time. And all of a sudden, I can't move the figure properly, right? The character properly, and she's doing these really nice Monica Seles side-to-side angled shots. Right there's another one. Now, I definitely want her to play better than she was in the first game, because we don't want it to be super easy. She got me there. Deuce. So I want it to be challenging, right? I don't want it to be unrealistic. Now, that last point was fine, right? I want it to be challenging. I don't want it to be unrealistic, and I definitely don't want the computer to cheat and not allow me to move the character around in the directions I'm pushing the joystick, because that's just crap. If the computer can't win without doing that, then, they need to take the whole game back to basics. Like, back to formula, It shouldn't have to move you the wrong way. Now, my guess is it was just some sort of a glitch. But it does seem like those glitches happen a lot on the critical points. I'm going to approach in here. There we go. That's what we'd like to see. 2 games to love. So there's a little sliced approach shot. You do that a lot. Again, I don't know if I explained it correctly last time. I did mention it. You often slice the approach shot, keep the ball low, because you want the other player to hit up. That causes the ball to be high over the net, and that allows you to swing the volley down into the court rather than having to volley up and cut under the ball, which forces you to take speed off the ball. So if you want to do a nice shot, like where you actually hit the ball down, you want the ball coming up from your opponent. Love 15. Nope, she got me twice now. So you can see the difference all of a sudden, right? In the first game, she couldn't touch me, and she was just, letting me cruise through those serves and volleys and stuff. And now in this game, she's giving me really good returns that are preventing me from doing the winners, right? And then she's taking that shot, and all 3 of my first volleys have turned into winners for her, right? So that's not what was happening in the first game. We know what Anabella does when she's in trouble. She serves and volleys. So that's what we will do. Nope, she got me, and that is a break of serve, so we're back on serve, 2 games to 1. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, it is, yeah. I don't know why it showed me getting a ball. It showed Anabella getting a ball there. So that's a break of serve, and it's 2 games to 1 on serve. Right, so we're back on serve. If she holds serve, it's 2-all. I was a little slow coming in there. There we go. Love 15. So remember, it was 7 winners to 0. Now it's 11 to 7. So she's got 7 of the last 11 winners, right? So she's definitely, Herman is definitely like coming back and doing better. That's what I like to see. So I was a little slow coming in there, a little too far back, but we managed to come in enough that we could block that up the line shot for a winner. So that's the tough part when you're coming into the net. You've got to commit to either blocking the cross court or up the line. It's 50-50, which one it's going to come at you. Now, it's not necessarily exactly 50-50, right? Because depending on the position they're in, right, it's really hard from off the court like that to hit a cross court. So it tends to go up the line more. Ivan Lendl used to do that all the time. The running forehand up the line for a passing shot. You can see him doing it to Boris Becker in the 1989 final that he played against Becker when they were number 1 and 2 in the world, respectively. You can't, when you're on the run like that, it's really hard to hit it cross court. And so Becker would protect up the line, but Lendl's shot was so good that sometimes he could get it past Becker anyway, as good as Becker was at the net. And she got me, I think. Nope. Got her. She tried to come in and I passed her up the line. That was luck. I just was going up the line. Right? She hit this so hard. Again, you can't go, it's really hard to go cross court on that. Mechanically in the game what happens, and I referred to this last match, is you're pushing the joystick left, 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 left to run your character over there, and then when you start hitting the swing, you have to aim it, and it's easier to just keep aiming it left to keep it going in the same direction. It's harder for me to switch the joystick all the way to the other side of the court while I'm trying to do the run. So that's just, I mean, that's just sort of partly the way it's easier for me, but it's also realistic that you're going to hit up the line on the run like that. Because that's what kind of what you have to do. 15 all. Serve into the body. Top spin. Slice. Slice. Flat. Man. She can really unload that. $30-15.
30-15.
Let's try a serve and volley here. I thought I was there, but I guess not. 30 all. Let's do a flat serve into the body. See how she handles that. I'll run in. Got her. Not pretty. Those weren't the prettiest volleys in the world, but it worked. 40-30, and now we'll do another serve and volley. First serve. Alright, so she saw where I was going. I'm going to change the direction up, but we're still going to serve and volley. And that is how you do net play. 4-1 for Mancinelli now. So this time we consolidated the break. Right, we were on serve, 2-1. If she had held, it would have been 2-all, but she was broken to 3-1. She didn't break back this time. So now we're up 1 break, 4-1. And that means that Herman is going to need to break serve to stay in the set at some point. Sometime in the next 2 service games of Mancinelli, she's going to have to break. Right, and that puts, you always want to go up a break early. That puts the pressure on. It forces the other person to not only have to hold their serve, you always have to do that, but to try and break your serve. You don't actually have to break serve if you don't lose your serve, because you can just win in a tie break. Wow. Let's run in. Nope, she got me. She's hitting them really short. Oh, wow. Yeah, that... I feel like I shouldn't have gotten to a couple of those. 15 all. That was a 24-hit rally with a bunch of me playing in the mid-court range. That's no man's land. All she had to do was hit something deep. I don't know why she kept hitting it short. That was too close to the line. With a flat shot, we don't have as much skill with a flat shot. 30-15. We've each only made one unforced error, which is actually good. It's a nice, clean match. By the way, speaking of that, one of the things that came up my YouTube feed today was a thing of like the worst sportsmanship in tennis, and there was one for men and one for women. I happen to watch the women's because I'm playing women's here, and they were just showing some matches where players were like fist pumping and cheering and screaming in pleasure at their opponents making errors, and how the crowd like started booing them and stuff. And that's why I always comment here when you put the angel option on, which is supposed to be good sport, good reputation or whatever, and your character animates to like mocking the other person making errors or cheering at them, fist pumping at them making errors. I always say, yeah, that's not good sportsmanship. You're not supposed to be cheering the other person's errors. In fact, the crowd's not supposed to be doing that, right? Usually, what the crowd will do, that's a cheer, right? That's a winner. It's a nice shot. It deuces it, right? She saves a break point. You cheer for that. But if the other person hits a bad error, they might politely clap at just the tennis of the point, right? They pretty much applaud. Wow, they pretty much applaud any point, right? A little bit, just applauding the play. But I remember Bud Collins saying there was, I think it was Becker against Lendl, and the crowd was very partisan, and they were very much for Becker, and then Lendl had made it a little worse by complaining about some line calls. Lendl sometimes did that when he was getting behind and getting frustrated. He got the crowd really mad at him against Michael Chang, and in fact he got penalized by the chair umpire. He got point penalty for it. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to finish my thought about Bud Collins. It was Wimbledon. The crowd was a big fan of Becker's. Can't remember which year it was, and it was either final or semifinal. I think it was the final, and Lendl made some mistakes, and the crowd started cheering at his mistakes, and Collins even said, "Wow, the crowd is cheering Lendl's errors now," right? That they had become very partisan, and now they're cheering his errors, which they don't usually do, right? They don't usually cheer at the errors of the other player. Usually, you're cheering for winners, like that, right? You appreciate that the person has moved their opponent around on the court enough to open up the court and get a really nice win. Now in the Michael Chang match, there was a really awesome umpire. I remember, I didn't know the names of most umpires. His name was Richard Ings. He was Australian. He was very young for a chair umpire, and he was umpiring the Michael Chang Ivan Lendl match, which was like the quarterfinal or something of the French Open, and it was a 5-set match where Lendl got ahead 2 sets to love, and Chang came back, and Lendl was getting frustrated in the 4th, 5th set, and he was complaining about line calls, and whatever he did, he got a warning. Right, so the way it works in tennis is the umpire can issue you a warning. It's basically 3 strikes and you're out, right, kind of, or the 4th strike you're out. You can get a warning. If you do it again, whatever the violation is, you get a point penalty, right? And if this deuce, it would become advantage the other player, right? Then there's a game penalty, right? You'd lose the whole game. It would just become 4-2. Right, and then you're out of the match. And so Ings gave him a warning, and Lendl complained, and he said quite audibly, every time he officiates, he cheats me, meaning Ings, the umpire. You're not allowed to do that in tennis. That's bad sportsmanship. That's a little bit of grandstanding, what our character just did. Yeah, you don't do that. You just, you can fist bump or whatever, but you don't. In the middle of a match, you don't celebrate like that to the crowd, unless you're Jimmy Connors and you're 39 years old. And so he said every time, so back to the story, Lendl said every time he officiates, he cheats me. And Ings said, point penalty, Mr. Lendl, and it was like 30-40. Point penalty, Mr. Lendl, je Chang, right, which is game Chang in French. And that's enough serve and volley for now. We don't want to only do that. And Lendl turned around and looked at him, and I remember Bud Collins saying, "Oh, he better stop, because the next step is game penalty, and then he's out of the match," right? And like, he can complain about it later to the tournament referee, but he's still out of the tournament if the chair umpire takes him out, right? It says, penalizes him, right? And so he just said, you've got to be careful. You're not allowed in tennis. That's it. We're not even going to run for that one. You're not allowed in tennis to show bad sportsmanship like that. Oh, I wasn't supposed to be running in here, but that's all right. Yeah, she got me. 30 all. So it's 5-1. We are serving for the set. Guess we run in. And that puts us up to set point at 40-30. So she's giving me a tougher couple of games than she did at the very beginning, but not enough to challenge Anabella, who has now won this set 6-1. We haven't missed a first serve yet. We have 30 winners to 16 for her. We both only have one unforced error, so we're winning this match on winners. And if you notice, we've had about the same number of winners from the baseline, because if you subtract out the 15 net points won, it's 15 to 16, and then 15 net winners, which is quite nice. I will definitely take 15 of 16 at the net, but I don't think that's actually true, because didn't she lob over our heads a couple of times? I think so. I feel like some of the time it doesn't count a net approach as an approach. Right, so if I try to serve and volley and she just lobs it over my head, sometimes I think it doesn't count it as an approach. I don't know why. But it's definitely true that we lost more than 1 point at the net. There's no question about that. That's a nice shot. That was a little close to the baseline there, but I'll take it. Love 15. Let's try a flat return. I usually slice it, but let's try flat. Whoa! I don't know what happened there. Can we see the replay? I didn't hit the replay button fast enough. I don't know what happened there, guys. Is there a hole in her racket? Yeah, there was a great point. If you do funniest points, is it the U.S. Open? I think. 15:30. Martina Navratilova was playing doubles with somebody, and it was when she was much older. It was like 1999 or something, and so she's playing doubles at the U.S. Open, and her partner runs to the net, and whoa, nice shot. Her partner runs to the net, and goes to swing at the ball, and I guess completely misses it or mishits it, and it practically goes. It looks like it went through her racket, right? And then she drops the racket, and it goes under the net. So Martina picks it up. And before she gives it back to her, she checks the racket to make sure there isn't a hole in it, visibly in front of the audience. It was very cute. And then handed it back to her. That is game Mancinelli. I also remember, gosh, I can't remember who it was. If it was Becker? Or if it might have been Kevin Curran against Becker, or Becker against Curran. One of them. I think it was in the Wimbledon match. That it was probably the first time I ever saw Becker. One of them hit the ball really hard at the other one, and it went right past him at the net. And whichever one it was, and I can't remember, basically, put his hand down on his stomach and pressed his stomach to make sure the ball didn't go right through him and make a hole. Obviously, the ball didn't go right through and make a hole, but, just sort of humorously, geez, did that thing go right through me? Because it looked like it did, But it just missed him by inches. By the way, if the ball hits you in play, you lose the point. She got that one. 30-15. Let's try and up the tee serve. Not quite up the tee, actually. And we're going to come in on this approach. And there we go. 40-15. Let's try up the tee again. That was up the tee, but I didn't do it right. Anabella trying to hold serve here. That puts her up a break in this second set, which gives her a big lead for the match. Nope. 40-30. Alright, let's try a serve and volley here. And there we go. It was a two-handed volley, but it worked. I think it's two-handed. Let's take a look. Yeah, swinging two-handed backhand volley. Usually don't do that. You usually do a one-handed volley. Because you can't stretch as far with the two hands on the racket. You're also often cutting under the ball and doing a slice. Although I think that was a topspin volley that I did there. You can do any of the shots, flat topspin or slice as a volley. I mostly do slices, but sometimes I do the topspin. She got me there. 2-love. All right, so now, thinking from the perspective of Herman, right? You're down a break and you're down a set. You cannot lose serve, and you have to find a way to break, right? Because all Mancinelli has to do now is just hold serve 4 times and the match is over. Realistically, at this point, Herman's got to start changing stuff up, right? What she's been doing doesn't work. You might want to start coming into net. You might want to start trying to draw the other player into net and hit passing shots, although that has not been working for her against Mancinelli in this match. So you wouldn't want to do that. As Mancinelli, in terms of what she's doing, you want to just keep doing what's working for sure. So that means coming into net whenever possible. Hitting those nice cross-court shots that seem to be working okay. Stay with the other player. Make the other player beat you. Don't give them any free points. Force them to hit another shot, right? Whatever looks like an error, okay, make them hit another shot. Stay with them in each point. You can let them have their service game. You don't have to fight to break serve, but you don't let them have it easily because that gives them confidence. And you don't want them to have momentum at all in the match. You want to keep the momentum. Lucky that didn't go out. 30 all. The other thing I want to say that I feel like I've noticed is I feel like that the stamina bar, the little blue curve, right, it goes down more when I hit flat shots. So see if you can see it. Flat shot, and it went down. There's a little red blip. Top spin shot. Yeah, it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit more of the flat shot. Run in. Nope. She got me. 40-30, game point.
40-30.
She's more tired. Herman's more tired than Mancinelli. Let's try to dig her into one corner. Nope, didn't work. You can definitely see that the computer can do those side-to-side shots. So we are on the defensive, right? Mancinelli was on the defensive in every single hit of this rally, right? I was just, just gasping for her life. And every single hit, but managed to hit a nice cross-court winner. That reminds me of what Tracy Austin used to say, is that sometimes you don't want to hit the ball deep angle like that because it gives the other person an angle to hit against you. And so sometimes you just want to hit the ball into the center of the court and cut those angles down. Is now break point again, right? And this is the sort of thing where, yeah, Herman does not want to lose another break. another service break, because then how do you come back from that? Now Moncinelli only needs to serve 3 times to win the match. Gonna approach. And that's not a great overhead, but it worked. Game Moncinelli, 3 games to love. Serve into the body. A nice short ball, so we will approach. So pretty much you have to hit the button to do the volley, like literally as the other player's swinging the ball. So you're swinging the racket, you almost don't have time to see where the ball is going. You have to commit before the ball even leaves their racket. And that's actually kind of realistic, because in regular tennis, in live tennis, in person, you can't wait to see where the ball's going when you're at the net, or you're going to be there too late. So you have to commit to one side or the other and use your experience of where you think the ball is going to go, and also some luck that you just guessed right. I always remember Tony Trabert talking about Connors when somebody was hitting an overhead smash and Connors got it back, and he said Connors stayed there and guessed right. It looked brilliant, but he had to guess where that overhead smash was going to go and position himself, and he guessed, okay, it's going to go to the ad court, and he positioned himself there, and he stayed there and guessed right. If the guy was going to hit it back to where he was, thinking he would wrong foot him as Connors ran in the other direction. So this gives us a huge lead at 4 games to love, and now if Herman doesn't hold serve here, she's probably going to lose this match. She has not yet been able to break serve or heck even hold serve, other than the first game of her first service game of set 1. And now she has double faulted to love 15. Yeah, if you ever really want to understand tennis, the logic of tennis and how it works, and get really good lessons on just how players play tennis and what works and what doesn't work, you can't do any better than going back to matches from the 70s, 80s, and 90s and listen to the calls at the U.S. Open with Tony Trabert, or French Open and Wimbledon with Bud Collins. Those 2 guys really knew a lot about tennis. The other person to listen to, if you can listen to the calls in the 90s, I guess, and the early 2000s, I think on the USA Network and probably the Tennis Channel and other places, Tracy Austin, super knowledgeable. Those are probably the best. And then anything Martina Navratilova calls in modern times. But I feel like the best explainer of what's going on and why you do what you do on the court was Tony Trabert. He just had such pearls of wisdom. He could explain it in a sentence. And he just always seemed to know what he was talking about. And he was always right. Talking about players, do that serve into the body. It works really well. And talking about how to play the ball. And what did he say? Good players go to great players don't let the ball come to them. They go to the ball. Right? You go to where the ball is. You don't wait for the ball to come to you. And that is another break of serve for Moncinelli on a very poor first volley there, but we stayed there and guessed right. The only way to win that point was to guess where she was going. And since I was there, I kind of couldn't get across court. And so that was pretty much just luck. So that is not guessing right. I was looking up the line. But you say things like, well, how does Scrapper know you want to do the sliced approach shot so that they have to hit the ball up so that you can volley down? Well, because Tony Trabert said it at one point when I was watching the U.S. Open. How does Scrapper know that when you've got the person on the run and they're hitting moon balls, you should run in and cut off those balls and do a nice volley like this? Well, because Bud Collins said it, or Tony Trabert said it. I don't remember who. I think it was Bud Collins. Cut off those moon balls, right? Probably during a French Open. You don't always volley at the French Open because it's a slower surface, but if you can get up there and cut off a moon ball and you punch the ball down, even on clay, they can't get it. It is now 50 winners to 24. And serve into the body and serve volley. And she got me. With a lob over my head. 30 all. So we're going to come in. Again, guessed right. She could have gone cross court. She often has in this match, but it's now 40-30 match point. We're going to serve and volley to try and win the match. And that does it. Game, set, and match, Moncinelli. 6-1-6 love. And again, you know, the like fist pumping and everything. Take some screenshots. The fist pumping. In a 6-1-6 love match, usually you just walk up and shake the player's hand because you completely crush them. You don't need to do a big celebration fist pump. You know, I remember reading an article in Tennis Magazine about this where they were like, yeah, you see players like Connors doing the fist pumping and stuff, and the crowd doesn't mind it. Yeah, because Connors just won a 4-set match in the semifinals of the U.S. Open, and it was a really tough match. 6-1-6 love in some little tournament like this, you don't do the fist pumping. And what did they say in the article? Throw the racket up so high that when it comes down, there's ice on it, you know, because it went up so high into the atmosphere. You don't do that. And they were actually talking about somebody in some dinky little tournament. It was a male player who had done this, and then he got booed. And it was because he was grandstanding. It's impolite, right? We beat her 6-1-6 love. There's no reason to do a fist pump at the end of the match. It wasn't close. You weren't pumped up. You know what I mean? You just won. And so, yeah, if you ever play real tennis, folks, make sure you have good manners. We're not going to worry about the stats here because it was pretty much a drubbing. We definitely won 25 of 27 at the net. I think I was past more than that. It's probably more like 25 of 30 or 31. But otherwise, the stats look pretty good. And we're going to gain some XP, 400, match result XP, and 1,250. Didn't we get only 800 or something in the first match, and it was 6-1-6 love, so I don't know what determines how many performance bonus XP you get. But this puts us about 2/3 of the way to 22nd level, and if we get to the finals and play 2 more matches, we'll probably hit 23rd level. This puts us in the semifinals against Vasek, who had a 3-set match coming from behind, 2-6 in the first set to win 6-1, 6-1 in the second and the third. We know that. And then in the semifinals, number 8 seed Sunny defeated number 4 seed Kaisley 6-1. 6-2, 6-1, so a very easy win, and we will be facing, if we win, Sunny of Britain in the final, the number 8 seed. But that will happen in the next episode. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, yes. So in terms of XP, training does get you a lot of XP. It doesn't earn you any money. But one of the things that I was thinking about is training happens in a week, and it gets you about 2,000, 2,500 XP. A tournament happens in a week, and you get like 1,000 XP per round. So if you get into the late rounds of a tournament, if you get through 5 rounds, you get more XP for playing a tournament in a week than for training in a week. So at the end of a month, if you didn't have to worry about resting and you played, like at the end of a month, if you played in, say, 2 tournaments and rested twice, you'd get more XP than training 3 times and resting once or something like that. If you get into the later rounds. If you get knocked out of the first round, then that's not true. But training is like 2 rounds of a tournament. So we've now gone through 3 rounds of this tournament, which means we've already gained at least as much XP, possibly a little bit more, from being in this tournament than we would have in training. So as we go through, it's going to become important to do the tournaments for both for XP and for money and ranking points. But you also need to do the training to raise your maximum skill levels. So what I try to do is get the maximum skill levels up nice and high to like 80, 90 points before we do too many tournaments, so that when the money comes in, we can just crank the skills up however high we want them. So that's kind of the logic of what I'm going to be doing. We'll see how it works. We're about halfway through the first year of this tournament, of this career. This will be the shortest career year, season 1 as I'm calling it, because we did mostly training and I'm not showing you those. But the tournaments will then become a bigger component in next year. We probably won't be ranked high enough to get into the Australian Open in the beginning of 2021, because this is 2020 in this career. But we might be high enough ranked to get into something like the French or Wimbledon by the time mid-year comes around next year. Depends on how well we do in these tournaments. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been AO Tennis 2 Career Mode with fictional character Anabella Moncinelli of Italy.